The new Audi RS5 is what happens when Audi finally remembers what made Audi great. There's a particular kind of frustration that comes with watching a brand you respect go through a period of competent mediocrity. Not failure, that would at least generate the kind of urgency that forces genuine reckoning. Just competence. Polished, well-engineered, commercially sensible competence that ticks every rational box and somehow leaves you with nothing to talk about. That's been Audi's situation for a while now, particularly with the electric models and the more recent combustion offerings that arrived technically proficient but emotionally inert. The Q6 e-tron is a fine EV. The A5 and Q5 are fine cars. Fine is not what Audi built its reputation on, and the gap between what the brand is currently producing and what it has historically been capable of has been widening in a way that people who care about Audi have found increasingly difficult to ignore. The answer has come from inside the building, which is both the most logical and the most satisfying outcome. Audi Sport, the specialist division formerly operating as Quattro GmbH, is the part of the organization that remembers what the brand was capable of when it was operating at its best. These are the people responsible for the RS2 Avant, the 311 horsepower machine assembled with Porsche's help that redefined what an estate car could be. The RS6, which has been one of the most consistently extraordinary performance cars in any segment for 20 years. The Q7 V12 TDI, which had a 12-cylinder diesel engine and was completely unhinged in the best possible way. The TT RS and RS3 with their 5-cylinder engines, the RS4 with its naturally aspirated V8, the R8, vehicles that didn't just deliver performance but delivered an experience, a sense that someone at Audi had made decisions based on what would be genuinely exciting rather than what would be commercially safe. That institutional memory and engineering confidence has now been directed at the A5, which needed it. The latest A5 generation replaced both the previous coupe and the A4 sedan with a unified sportback format, and while the underlying structure is capable, the launch version arrived with conservative powertrain choices, materials that felt less distinctive than the premium positioning demanded, and an overall character that was difficult to get excited about. Efficient transportation wrapped in premium branding is a reasonable description, and it's not a description that the RS designation has ever been intended to attract. Audi Sport's brief was clear enough. Make this car into something that reminds people why the RS badge means something. The result is the new RS5, and the most immediately significant thing about it is the powertrain architecture, a plug-in hybrid setup built around a 22 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery mounted over the rear axle. The battery placement is not accidental. Decades of chassis engineers pursuing ideal weight distribution have pointed consistently toward the same conclusion, and the RS5 lands at a 49-51 front-to-rear split that is about as close to perfect as a road car with this layout is likely to get. The battery provides around 40 miles of electric-only range under EPA-equivalent testing conditions, with European figures reaching 50 miles. Recharging takes roughly 2.5 hours. Drivers can preserve electric energy for specific situations or limit discharge through configurable settings, and regenerative braking is available in 2 strengths, present but not intrusive, recapturing energy without forcing the one-pedal driving experience on people who don't want it. The inevitable conversation about weight comes next, because electrification and mass are still deeply linked, despite the engineering community's best efforts. Audi quotes a curb weight of approximately 5,200 pounds for the RS5, which is a significant number that puts it firmly in the heavyweight class for a performance sedan. The response to that weight is output, and the output here is substantial. The familiar twin-turbocharged 90-degree V6 has been comprehensively revised airflow paths, air-to-water intercooling, raising combustion engine output from 444 horsepower to 503 horsepower before any hybrid contribution is considered. Integrated ahead of the ZF 8-speed automatic sits a 174 horsepower electric motor capable of pushing the car to 87 miles per hour on electric power alone. Combined system output peaks at 630 horsepower and 609 pound-feet of torque. That's enough to get the RS5 from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. And the electric motor's instant torque delivery means the experience at the accelerator is more forceful than even that number suggests. There's no waiting for the turbos to build, no soft initial response before the thrust arrives. It's immediate in a way that combustion-only performance cars. The powertrain management is intelligent enough to suit different driving intentions without requiring the driver to think too hard about it. In comfort-oriented modes, the car prioritizes electric propulsion and preserves the battery, with the V6 stepping in smoothly when the accelerator is pressed past the detent. Select RS Sport or Dynamic, and the combustion engine stays active to ensure the maximum responsiveness is always available. The transition between modes is calibrated well enough that you're interacting with a driving experience rather than a system, which is the outcome this kind of hybrid architecture is always chasing and doesn't always achieve. The chassis story is where the RS5 moves from impressive to genuinely interesting, because the hardware Audi Sport has deployed here represents a meaningful engineering step beyond what previous RS models offered. Earlier Audi performance cars used clutch pack rear differentials for torque vectoring. The RS5 replaces that with an electrically driven unit capable of distributing power independently to each rear wheel in real time. The practical result is a car that can overdrive the outside rear wheel in a corner, sharpening turn-in and generating a sense of rotation that previous Quattro systems, for all their competence, couldn't match in the same natural way. There's a drift analyzer built into the system that quantifies slip angles for drivers who want to explore those limits methodically, which is either the best feature or the most unnecessary feature on the car, depending entirely on your perspective and driving habits. Standard rubber is Bridgestone Potenza Sport in 285/30 R21 sizing, with optional Pirelli P0R available for additional adhesion. The rear wheels are half an inch wider than the fronts, a detail that emphasizes rear axle authority and contributes to the balance of a car that you quickly understand is set up to rotate willingly rather than push through corners on understeer. The Torsen center differential covers the 1585 to 7030 distribution range, maintaining stability while allowing dynamic bias shifts that happen seamlessly enough to be felt rather than noticed consciously. Standard iron brake rotors can be upgraded to carbon ceramic units for sustained track use, with pedal feel that remains natural through the interplay between regenerative and friction systems. Transitions subtle enough that you'd need to be actively looking for them to notice. The steering is direct and accurate at a 13:1 ratio with 2.1 turns lock-to-lock. Body roll is almost absent despite the weight, and the twin-turbocharged V6's delivery is relentless in a way that doesn't tire with familiarity. Structural reinforcements add roughly 10% more rigidity over the base A5, contributing to a chassis that feels cohesive and trustworthy rather than simply fast. The comparison that keeps surfacing from early drive impressions is the Nissan GT-R, a car defined by the combination of considerable mass and extraordinary precision, where the weight becomes invisible once the dynamics are understood. The RS5 occupies similar conceptual territory, and like the GT-R, it does so while offering cabin refinement that is in a different class from the Japanese car's purely functional interior. That interior has been specifically addressed in this generation, responding directly to criticism of the standard A5's material quality and differentiation. Forged carbon accents appear throughout. Alcantara covers the surfaces that benefit most from it, and the leather quality takes a clear step up from what the base car offers. The curved digital display remains the dominant visual element of the dashboard and operates with menus that are genuinely intuitive and fast enough to stop being frustrating, which isn't as low a bar as it sounds given the industry's recent track record with large touchscreen interfaces. RS-specific gauge options include a tachometer with integrated digital speed readout. Seat bolstering is substantial enough to support aggressive cornering without becoming uncomfortable over long distances. The Sportback body provides generous cargo capacity under the rear hatch, keeping the car usable as daily transportation without compromise. Outside, flared fenders accommodate the wider rolling stock with particularly sculpted rear arches that communicate the RS5's intentions clearly without looking like aftermarket additions. An Avant Estate variant exists for some markets, though American buyers shouldn't hold their breath for it.
Configurable lighting signatures allow personalization of the headlight and taillight patterns, which will genuinely delight some owners and register as a complete irrelevance to others. A voice-activated assistant handles climate and seat functions efficiently and can draw on AI for broader queries, connecting the car to Audi's broader digital ecosystem without making that connectivity feel like the point of the exercise. US pricing and availability haven't been confirmed, with arrival expected within the next year. The competitive context places the RS5 below the RS7 while pointing directly at the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing, which has been one of the most convincing performance sedans at any price for several years. Whether the RS5 can challenge that benchmark in the experience it delivers rather than just the numbers it posts is the question that will define its reception. What Audi Sport has clearly demonstrated is that the capability was always there, that the brand's recent period of fine but uninvolving products was a choice rather than a limitation, and that choosing differently produces a fundamentally different result. The RS5 is that different result, and it arrives as convincing evidence that remembering what made a brand great is sometimes all that's required to be great again.